Hello everyone, and welcome. We're going to do something a little different today. You've all seen the fire lighters that I use in the winter, where it's a cotton pad. I've done a video a few years ago about how I make them. I've noticed a lot of people are using the dental gauze now and making fire plugs. So I have a few of my cotton pads, and I bought some of the dental gauze. I want to make a few of each and then compare the two. I want to see if they're going to be waterproof, which they should. I'm using the same method to make them. There's a million different methods out there. This is just the way I do it. It's an extra step. It takes a little bit longer, but I find they work very well. So I have a lot of cotton pads. These are the ones left from the last time I made some. And I bought the dental gauze. I went to Dollarama and I got pure petroleum jelly for $1.50. I got this little container, which will actually make quite a bit. I've got some wax paper. A lot of people use paraffin wax. Personally, I go to Dollarama and I buy emergency candles. $1.25 and I got 5 of them. I melt those down and I find they're just a little bit heavier than the paraffin wax. They do a little bit better job. So let's get set up and we're going to get this started. First thing we're going to do, I cut a beer can in half. I'm going to open up the petroleum jelly. And then we're going to scoop this out into our can. Now I've got an old small frying pan that I will put on the stove. And then I set the can in there. And we turn it on at a very low temperature. I just want to melt this down to a more liquid form. I don't want to boil it. I don't want to evaporate it. I'm just trying to soften it up. So while we're waiting for that to liquefy, I've got a cookie sheet here and I'm just going to line it with wax paper. That way, once this is ready, I will dip a few cotton pads for testing purposes. Let's do 3. And then I'm going to use up the rest of this using the dental gauze. While that's heating up, I've got another can here. I'm going to take one of my candles and I'm just going to cut it up. Then I cut it in half. Trying to dig out the wick. There's a small piece of it. That's the problem with these Dollarama candles. Sometimes the wick doesn't go all the way to the bottom. You can see it's slowly dissolving. Again, I don't want to get it super hot. I just want to liquefy it to make it a little more absorbent. Once I've got my wax into the can, I like to add a little bit of color. Every time I make a batch, I change the color so that when I'm going through them, I can tell which ones are the older ones and try and use those up first. I'm going to peel some of the paper off this crayon. Now I just break off that chunk, toss it into the can, and when I melt the wax later, the green coloring should melt right in there. So this is what I was aiming for. It's liquefied. It'll absorb a lot easier. So here's what we'll do. We toss in one of our cotton pads, and I've got my needle nose pliers. Dip in another one. Now we repeat the process with the dental gauze, but they're smaller, so I can throw a couple extras in there. Let those absorb for just a second. So I've got 3 of the cotton pads, and I managed to make 32 of the dental gauze. I'm going to stick these in the fridge just so that they'll harden up a little bit. These are pretty much ready. It's just a matter of, I don't normally have to put them in the fridge. I just do it so that they're a little bit less sticky while I'm handling them. So I'm going to set these here. I have another piece of wax paper for my pan. Let's get set up and start waxing these things. I find by doing the wax at the end, the wax just coats everything and helps make it a little bit more water resistant. You can usually dunk these in the water for quite some time and still be able to light them up. Okay, here we go. First one goes in. I know you're in there. Come on back out. There we go. For this final step, all I'm doing is the ends where I was using the pliers, the wax has come off. So I just grab them by the other end and I just dip that end into the wax. Just to make sure they're fully coated. Once this is done, I'm going to let them set for a while, either later tonight or tomorrow morning. They will be set enough, and we're going to go out and we're going to light one of each, time it and see how long they burn for. I'm fully expecting the cotton pads to burn for longer simply because they're bigger. But as long as I get a decent burn time out of the smaller ones, I think they're going to be fine. Those fire starters are setting. This is how it's going to work. I have 2 of these little timers. So when I light each of them, I will start the timer next to the one that I light and time how long they burn for. Just to show that it doesn't need a super big spark, I'll be using the ferro rod that's off my keychain. It's just a tiny little thing. Once I set up to light them, I've got a small bowl here. I'm going to fill it with water in order to simulate how waterproof they are if you happen to fall in the water with them or what have you. I'm going to put one of each into this bowl of water. Then I'm going to light these 2. However long these burn for, that's how long the others are going to sit in the water for. Once these are out, I'll pull these out of the water, break them open and try and light them and see how it goes. I've got a tin foil plate that I'm going to light them in, and we'll see what happens. Now, I've been sitting here doing a bit of math. The dental gauze cost me 20 bucks for 400. Works out to about 5 cents a piece. I've got 32 of them in the fridge, as well as those 3 cotton pads. So that come up to $1.60. The Vaseline, we all know, cost me $1.50. The candles were $1.70, $1.25, and I used 3 of them. Comes up to 75 cents. So for the grand total of the 32 dental gauze firelighters and the 3 cotton pads, $3.85. That works out to 12 cents a piece. I don't know about you, but if I happen to be in the canoe early spring or late in the fall and fall into cold water and it costs me 12 cents to get a fire going and warm me up, I'm in for that. I will gladly spend that 12 cents. So now we're just waiting for those to cure a little more. Once they're well set, we'll go out and try and light them up. Like I said earlier, it'll be either later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. Good morning. ready. It's been pouring rain pretty much all night. It just stopped. I think we're going to get a little bit of a break. The best place I can think of to go and test these is outside on my barbecue. It'll be the safest place. So I've got a couple of pieces of tin foil that I'm going to use to put them on. Got my bowl of water. And like I said, we're going to simulate me falling in the water and having some of these with me and using them to light the fire. So I'm going to drop these in the water right now. And I'm going to let them sit there while I go out and light the other ones. And once those are done, I will bring these outside and try and light them as well. After sitting in the water for that long, who knows? Only one way to find out if they're going to be waterproof or just water resistant. So we've got our bowl. And then in each tray, I have the fire lighter. And I have my timers set up and turned on. I'm going to break both of these open. As I light one, I will turn on the timer and we'll see which one lasts the longest. I'm going to get the ferro rod ready. And I'm just going to use the tiny scraper that it comes with. So let's break this one open. Alright, I'm going to bring you in closer and we'll try and light these. Finer fibers. There we go. Now I've got the ones that have been sitting in water. Shake them out, break them apart, and we'll try and light these ones. observations. When you take these and break them open, you're getting wax on your fingers. So that little ferro rod gets a little bit slippery, makes it a little tougher to use. But that's going to happen whether you're here or whether you're out there in an emergency. The whole point was not how fast will they light, it's can I get it to light with that little ferro rod if that's all I have in an emergency. And I did. The cotton pads burnt for 7 minutes and 34 seconds. The dental gauze burnt for 4 minutes and 29 seconds. Now you noticed once I got the dental gauze lit, a big gust of wind went by and blew it out right away. I had to relight it. I restarted the timer. So that's still the time we've got on that. And at 4 minutes and, 29 seconds? Yeah. If I can't have a flame for 4 minutes and 29 seconds and use it to light a fire, I shouldn't be in the woods. I think they're going to work fine. And even in an emergency situation, I know I'm not going to sit myself up in the middle of a gusty wind. I'm going to do what I have to do to block the wind as much as I can. Here, I figured I was going to be okay on the barbecue on the deck. I didn't expect that gust of wind at all. Oh well, that's how it goes. Now, knowing that they burn that long, I had the other two sitting in water for, I'm going to guess, a little over 10 minutes, because this one burnt for 7.5. And they were in there for a few minutes while I was getting stuff outside and getting ready. So we'll average guess 10 minutes. They were a little tougher to light, but they lit. So they're gonna work. I'm guessing they're not completely waterproof, but they're more water resistant. So I know I can make them work. It'll just be a little tougher. And honestly, out there in a survival situation, even in a survival situation, 9 times out of 10, I'll have my knife on me and a bigger ferro rod. So it'll be easier to do. But they're going to work very well, I think. Now, I don't normally use them much in the summer unless it's an absolute emergency. I can usually find something to use. I tend to use them more in the fall and in the winter, especially when I'm hot tenting, because they make it so much easier to light the wood stove. But that being said, this is the container, well, same size container as I normally use. And when I'm using the cotton pads, as you can see, I can get 4, if I squish maybe 5 in there. By using these smaller ones, five, 6, 8, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, and I'm sure if I move them around I can squeeze in an extra and have 20. That's a lot of fire starters for just a few dollars. I had figured it out yesterday. It works out to about 12 cents each. $3.85, and I made everything that I have here. it's a cheap way of making sure that you have something that's gonna light your fire in an emergency if you need it. Now, I always have my other container with the cotton pads in my pack so that even in the summer, if I need it, they're there. I'm gonna try and use up those cotton pads before I get into this. I wasn't actually planning on making these this weekend. I was hoping to wait until most of my cotton pads were gone. But it's a busy weekend. I didn't have time to get out into the woods, and it's been rainy and yucky. And I figured, I've got the stuff here, I may as well do it and get it done. And now we know. We know how well they work. We know how long they burn. And at 4.5 minutes, I knew they wouldn't burn as long as the cotton pad because the cotton pad is a lot bigger. But when you look at the size difference, 4.5 minutes, 7.5 minutes. You would think that you would get 3 times the amount out of this. But I'd only double. I think it's because these are rolled up a little bit tighter. So when you do get them to light, they're more packed in, so they'll last a little bit more. I'm not going to complain with that. A 4.5 minute burn, that's perfect. Being able to carry 20 of them with me, again, that's perfect. But I think I'm going to end things here. Now we know they work. That's all I wanted to show. So I want to thank you all for joining me. Always a pleasure having you here. And hopefully on the next one, we'll be out in the woods again. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.